Well, I know y'all been crying for forever. We got Phrolova here, the absolutely lovely lady of the Havoc origin, who is a musician who will musicalize your very being in this guide. So, of course, in this guide, we're going to go over all of the good things, all the great things here that make Phrolova. She is an extremely good unit and is very versatile, and you will definitely enjoy her. And I could put her up on the list as possibly very high up there as almost a must pull. She is a very great character, and she is absolutely a cherishable character to have. But like I said, if you've done her story, man, you probably shed some tears. Anyway, let's dive on in. But first, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously. Thank you very much. And in this guide, just out where you're fully aware of what we're going to be getting, we're going to be getting a full rundown of her. Of course, that's all my guys are always the most premium guys that you'll ever find. We'll make sure that it's really good for Wells, for free to play, for whatever you are at in your gaming experience within Wuthering Waves, and you will understand in multiple different teams exactly how to play the player, how to play the character rather anyway, your weapons, your gearing options, all the above. You will have absolutely zero questions I've come out here, and if you do, leave them in the comments. I'll be glad to reply to you. So first things first is that we have her Forte circuit. Of course, that's going to be the main thing that comes with most characters here, is their Forte circuit. Her Forte circuit's pretty neat, pretty different, in that it's going to cast musical notes. How cool is that, right? Makes you want to go and just like listen to Under the Sea or something like that. Under the Sea, I don't know what that song popped up in my head. But nonetheless, you're going to be able to cast musical notes when you are using her Forte circuit. And once you cast these musical notes, then you'll be able to really go into the rest of her kits with her liberation and her damage boosting attacks. So let's make our way to a fight right here, because I don't see any mobs around here. Holy smoke. So let's go over to a boss. So the thing that you'll need to note here is Reincarnate. So you'll see that these notes trigger right here. Just off the jump right here, you'll see that you get some red notes and some purple notes. So the way that this is going to work right here is that one note does one thing and another note does another thing. So your red note, as you can see here, your red note that I'm doing right there, you see it appear right there, is giving the movement of fate and finality. This is going to be when you're using your basic attack 3 times, and you see it enhanced right there. And then if I choose basic attack again, that's the movement of fate and finality, which this note is going to stagnate and deal havoc damage. Okay, so that's the red note. And then we have press the E here, the resonance skill, and that will give the purple notes. The purple note is straightforward, just havoc damage outright. So those are your 2 notes that you're going to need to understand for her Forte circuit. That's how we just really open it into this. That's how we get you comfortable with that. That's going to be how her kit revolves around. So you're going to be choosing between those notes. That's really what's going to be going on here. It's going to be choosing between those notes and kind of picking your choice there. So that leads us directly to the volatile notes and exactly what they are and how they work, which are the musical notes that we just discussed. Each different type of red or purple attack will produce one of these red or purple musical notes on the bottom Forte bar music sheet. The red is referred to as strings and the purple is referred to as winds. But the easier way to view it is simply red and purple, right? So you're not going to remember, oh yeah, so I casted wings. I forgot I casted wings. Oh no, I casted strings. Or no, oh man, I can't remember it. So it's just red or purple, okay? It's going to be the easiest way. These musical notes will reflect the attacks that Hecate will do in your liberation. So you see we have these notes here. These notes are going to reflect the attacks that Hecate is going to do in her liberation. So that's what these notes are that you're triggering. They're not necessarily for you, more so. I mean, they do have those damage properties, but they're not necessarily for you as more so as they are for Hecate. So you want to build up a certain musical sheet there. You have 6 volatile notes. And so as I mentioned before, the notes have different properties, and of course, the red will have Hecate stagnating while dealing havoc damage, with the purples dealing outright havoc damage. And so once again, you can hold up to 6 of these notes on your music sheet. And if you make another note after having 6, all of your notes will shift over to the left. So you see we have a whole bunch of reds down at the bottom right there. I actually don't want to fight that. Yeah, I hate these mobs. You see we have a whole bunch of red's down there at the bottom. So we'll go in here and we'll do the 3 basic attacks, and we'll press E. And you're gonna see a purple one pop up on the far right, and it's gonna shift over. Okay. So we'll go in here and we'll pop this, and you're gonna see it move. See how it moved right there? So we see that move right there. So that's what will happen right there if you want to, change your musical sheet. So we put more purples on here. Put more purples on there, and now you see we have pretty much a full musical sheet of purples. Kind of accidentally got a red in there, but you see how they will move over if you want to adjust your musical sheet. For, if you want to switch it up and have this or that. Remember, the purple system more so outright havoc damage, and the red is going to stagnate while doing havoc damage. So if you want to switch it up, you can. And we'll also discuss how that's actually going to affect some other things, some other small things with the liberation moving forward. Let's get out of here before this guy goes, oh my goodness, chill, bro. Yeah, take a chill pill. You only like this when you're hungry. Eat a Snickers. Anyways. And then that brings us to the combined music note. So of course we just went over the volatile notes, and now we have the combined music note, which you will see here. This will trigger after performing an echo skill or an intro skill, and then triggering one of your notes. So we'll do an echo skill right here, and so watch the musical sheet right there, and then we're going to trigger a note, and you'll see it's combined there. So you notice that icon there is combined after doing that. So that's how you're going to trigger your combined one. We can also do this instead. So we'll trigger an intro skill as well, and you'll see we'll be able to put another one there. Let's try to get some juice here. Let's try to get some juice here. I don't have her geared, by the way. She's not level. And then you'll see go there, and you see now we have another combine right there. So that's going to be how you get your musical notes combined in that manner. And now this skill could be further seen by her inherent skill, which will open this up and we'll show you right here. That's how you kind of get a look at it. It's going to be your inherent skill, Accidental. Casting Echo skill grants increased resistance to interruption and reduces damage taken by 30% for 15 seconds. And then after these right here, which these are her intro skills, these are two her intro skill variants right here. And then Echo skill. The next volatile note becomes volatile note Cadenza, which is what you're seeing there, the combined notes. So that's how that one works. So intro skill, these are both of these are intro skills. So just we'll go over that. But both of these are intro skills, just different variations. The next note that you do will be the volatile note Cadenza, which is the combined note. So that's very straightforward, right? Very straightforward. Okay. And this property on this one, on the combined note, is going to do both. So remember how I said there's the red and the purple. The red will stagnate with havoc damage, and then the purple will just do outright havoc damage. Well, obviously, the combined one is going to do, obviously, both of those. Piece 2 and 2 together shouldn't be too hard to understand that, right? Shouldn't be too hard to understand that, right? Now, when having 6 notes, you can enter the resolving chord state by holding your heavy attack. So we'll go ahead and do that here. This will trigger the Scarlet Coda. Scarlet Coda is this baby right here, holding heavy attack. Bang! So you see that right there. That's Scarlet Coda. So now we have entered the resolving chord state. So if you notice down there at the bottom on my notes, you will see this guy's going ham. And so you'll see these musical notes down at the bottom right there. And you'll see how they're a bit different right here. And so you'll notice that they're kind of boxed out. So now I'm in the resolving chord state. So after you use your Scarlet Coda, which is the heavy attack when you have 6 notes, you will enter resolving chord. Now, just to remind you, Scarlet Coda is an absolutely massive attack, and it does a lot of damage. So you definitely want to be using this. Scarlet Coda is a beast of a freaking attack. Just a heads up. Technically speaking, she can only use Scarlet Coda every 25 seconds. Technically speaking, due to her needing to be in the composed state, which is stated over here. However, there's around here. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? There we go. Phrolova enters the composed state every 25 seconds when the following 3 conditions are met. Heavy attack is replaced with Scarlet Coda. So you'll see that there. So technically speaking, you can only use Scarlet Coda every 25 seconds when she's in the composed state. However, you likely will never notice this, and it will always be ready when you need it to be. So don't pay too much mind to that. Don't pay too much mind to the 25 seconds list is there. The only way you're ever going to possibly run into this cooldown is if you're opting to not let your liberation run its cycle, which we'll touch on when we go over the liberation. When you are in resolving chord state, your liberation becomes active and you cannot obtain further notes. So if we go down here, We'll try to obtain some further notes out here. So let's go here. Take a look at my musical sheet. Notice how that bar isn't moving over to the left anymore, right? Remember, previously if we had 6, it would move over. But you see it's not moving over anymore because we're in this state, which will prevent us from getting more. We are locked in. Our musical sheet is locked in. Think of it like, okay, well, I've been working on this paper for a class at college or something like that. And now I've done a draft and I've locked it in. I've submitted it. So once you submit it, it's gone. Okay, the professor's now going to review it. You can't go and edit it. Okay, it's already been submitted through the system, so you can't go and edit it. Okay, so pretty much that's what resolving Chord is. You already submitted it. Okay, your paperwork is in. You can't edit it. You can't edit it anymore. You have to follow through with it. Okay, so that's the best way to think about it. Okay. I do also want to note the modifiers between the two different versions that you have here, the purple and the red, when you are able to use them, right? But when you're not resolving Chord. But you'll see the modifiers here, because remember, like I said, the red will do Havoc damage plus stagnate, and then the purple is just outright Havoc damage. So you'll see that over here. You'll see those modifiers, as you can see, you know, this is just outright Havoc damage, whereas this one does Havoc damage, but it stagnates as well. And this one's more outright. So you'll see those modifiers there. And then I also would like to note that, of course, both of these are, well, not of course, you wouldn't know this, but these are considered resonant skill damage. Both of these are. So consider that when building as well. Now, while we're on here, we have to go into something that's very important, and that is the after sound, okay? The after sound is going to work as such. Obtain 10 stacks of after sound upon entering battle. This effect cannot be triggered again within 4 seconds after exiting the combat. For every 1 stack of after sound, this is the important part right here. Crit damage is increased by 2.5%. When the aftersound reaches the max, each new stack of aftersound increases Phrolova's crit damage by 1% up to 100%. The increased crit damage is removed when aftersound stacks are cleared. Now keep in mind, you'll notice that you saw the 10 stacks right there. So the 10 stacks upon entering the battle. That's literally as stated. So you will gain 10 stacks upon entering the battle. So we'll go here and you'll look right above my Forte bar and you'll notice the icon pop up. It'll say 10. So I should say you see that 10. So now we have those 10 stacks right there. This triggers upon entering the battle. This is not an on-field type of deal. This enters when you are entering the battle, and if you exit the battle for 4 seconds, then of course you can get it again. So let's go ahead and defeat this boss right here, and then you'll see that we will get this thing again as we go through here. I'm purposely not running her kit, so that way we can explain these things in full, one at a time, not to overload you. So let's go ahead and kill this guy, and you'll see I saw the 10 down there, right? This guy is now dead. Alright, so now it's going to take them out probably like 5 seconds to spawn. So remember, if you're out of combat for 4 seconds, you can trigger it again. So watch down there below. You'll see it go to 20 because we just entered combat again. It's been over 4 seconds. I think it takes like 5 seconds for these guys to respawn. So you'll get that. So you can stack this up in that manner pretty much forever. So this makes Phrolova an absolute goat at farming bosses. An absolute ghost farming bosses, echoes, or whatever. We're just waiting for respawns because this will continue to stack. So she's very efficient for echo boss farming, as you will increasingly max your crit damage gain out as you continue to enter and exit the fights as the boss is defeated and respawns. So that is extremely important to note. Now, after sound in general, to really just dive into this, after sound in general is going to increase your crit damage by 2.5% per stack. Okay, this works up until 24 stacks. The stacks will stay on until Phrolova is out of combat for 30 seconds. So she needs to be out of combat for a whole 30 seconds for those stacks to leave, which is a pretty significant time. That allows you a lot of flexibility. So she needs to be out of combat for 30 seconds. So you can pretty much just build this up and you can use it and you can be running around and you can have it on with you for a very long time. But obviously 2.5% crit damage is a very huge stack, right? Because you get 24 of these, you get 2.5 crit damage per every single one. So in short, this stays permanently and continues to stack more or less until like you're not doing anything. You see it's still on right now. It's still on right now. Now, when you reach 24 stacks, you'll notice right there, we just re-enter it there, and we stack 10 more. but you'll see we're at 24 on one of them, and a new icon has appeared that says 6. This is the other set after you have reached 24 stacks. Now, this new set gives 1% crit damage. This can go up to 100%. When I say it can go up to 100%, I mean the one that gives 1% can go up to 100%, meaning that you can have a total of 124 on there, with 24 of these giving crit damage 2.5%, and then 100 of them giving 1% crit damage, which is an absolute whopping amount of crit damage that you're getting there extra. To be precise, that is 160% crit damage increase. To be precise, in case you were wondering the exact number, that is a lot of crit damage increase. Naturally, that also tells you probably one thing, you know, before we even get to it, that you probably want to be focusing on crit rate with her, right? Because obviously she has a lot of crit damage. So before we even get to that, that should probably tell you that. Okay, now I'm gonna need y'all to sit down for this one, because here's the trick with her. Here's the trick with her, y'all. Because of how Phrolova operates and that her crit damage boost takes 30 seconds to wear off and continuously stacks, she's an extremely strong unit in the grand scheme of things, regardless of her team. Regardless. Doesn't matter if you're using her in a full Havoc team or whatever. You can essentially build her stacks outside and then teleport to a boss and retain her stacks. So you see we have these stacks right here. Let's teleport to a boss. Let's teleport to another boss over here. Let's go over to this guy. We'll teleport over here, and you'll see even though we're loading to a different zone, but we still retain our stacks, and we just got another 10 once we got here because we just enter combat. This right here in her mechanic makes her extremely strong, efficient, and almost broken when it comes to just playing the game normally. Now, this can go even further, y'all. And y'all are going to be like, wait, hold up, what? Once I show y'all this. This can go even further. You know why it can go even further? Because of the fact that you can literally go over to this baby right here. Yes, the holograms. And you can actually take advantage of this in the holograms. So you'll see we're out here. The holograms act as a typical zone change. So because of that, when you go in here, so let's go in here, let's go to Fluterlays or something like that. When you go in here, well, let's pop in here, you'll see I still have my stacks and I just gained another 10. You can literally exit this, leave this. Actually, that might be 4 seconds. I might just be able to just press retry. Watch. Retry. You see we just gained stacks again. 36, 24. We're going to leave this again. Yeah. Sit down for this one. We're going to leave this again. Go back in. 46, 24. You can continuously do this. And you can stack up for that 160% crit damage boost. Completely allowing you to really pretty much cheese these. This is pretty crazy. I noticed this as I was doing testing. I was like, bro, hold up a second. This stuff is stacking while I'm in here. So I mean, sure, you can do like this, or you could, you know, just let it run naturally, and then, you know, it usually prompts you when you're going through these levels. So you defeat one level, and then it's like, oh, you want to go to the next, and it'll trigger. Let's go to the next. Or you can just go in here and stack it all the way to max, as we're doing right here, and then just run it as such with the complete 124 boost on there, giving 160% crit damage. So we'll go ahead and just let this go up to 100 just because, right? Just because, I mean, we've already made it this far, so we may as well let it go to 100. But this is absolutely mind-boggling in how this is able to work it. Now, this probably has you wondering another question. Surely it does, right? I can already tell what you're thinking next. Okay, wait, can I do this in Tower of Adversity in Whimpering Waste? Can I do that there? The answer to that is no. There's a limit. There's a limit to how good things get here. That is because the Tower of Adversity and the Whimpering Waste is a actual The way that it operates is that it's an actual change, and of course you have to select your characters, and it actually loads you in fresh every single time. Trust me, I tried, I tested it, because once I saw this, I was like, wait, hold on. Can I do that over there too? Can I do that over there too? But naturally, you cannot do that over there. However, either way, it's not really that big of a deal because you can do it for all the holograms, and that's massive in itself. You can do this for the holograms, and of course you can do it anywhere outside because it just counts as a regular zone change. So because of that, it works in the same way as if you're just fighting a regular boss outside in the open world. So these stacks will retain regardless of what you're doing. And once again, I'm intentionally not going through this whole kit, so that way I can run it down to y'all one by one. But this is kind of the hidden important thing that I want y'all to see here, that you really need to note, because it allows you to pretty much circumvent having Cantarella, makes not having Cantarella as important, which of course we'll go over why Cantarella is important in certain teams because of her skill kit once you get to the team comps. But this really allows you to essentially circumvent even really needing to use Cantarella in the first place, because her stats stay on her for 30 seconds and you can continuously trigger them as you enter combats. Now of course, like I said, in Tower of Adversity, and then of course Wuthering Waste, then of course you're not going to be able to have that luxury of doing that. So of course that will not be an option. Now keep it a buck, it wouldn't surprise me if this got patched in the future for the hologram. However, we'll hope that it doesn't. Now of course it may not though, because it doesn't work in Tower of Adversity or Wuthering Waste, which is okay. However, I'm not sure if this one was intentional that they left it like this, but that's not hurting anyone. It makes her more valuable, makes her really be much more of a mandatory type pull, makes you really want to get her. You know, that's a really big reason to get her, quite frankly. The fact that she can work on that, and the fact that she does retain those stacks across the way regardless. So that's very good stuff. So now we want to go into her liberation. Now we're into the cheeky stuff. So upon casting liberation, as we can see right there, she will enter Maestro. Okay, so in this mode you can control the Maestro, well excuse me, you can control Hecate, or you can take Hecate off field. Also right off the jump, just want you to see this right here, right off the jump. Boom, gains 120% attack increase. Just so you know, right off the jump, she gains 120% attack increase simply from using her liberation, from being in Maestro. Just to let you know that right off the jump, so when you see it, you're like, okay, cool, liberation equals 120% attack increase. Cool, alright, bet. Now, casting liberation, being in Maestro allows you to control Hecate freely as an on-field or off-field unit. Now, in regards to on-field, I would really highly recommend using the on-field unit if you just really want to. And, you know, if you really want to kind of just slow things down and kind of, let's get out of there. And you'll see, you kind of notice that, right? Because you could get hit there. If you really just kind of want to slow things down, then you can opt to use that on-field one. The on-field, you know, one does plenty of damage, just as the off-field one does, though, of course. But it does require you to be in that Maestro mode. So we'll go back into it. We'll get some more notes here. We'll go back into it. And it requires you to be in that Maestro mode in order to control Hecate as such. So you're going to control Hecate while you're on this on-field mode, and you can just do basic attacks there, then we'll do that. And you'll notice as well that we're consuming these notes down here at the bottom right there. This is every 4 seconds, which we'll go over here. Now remember, you see that red and the purple note down at the bottom? Remember, those ones have different properties, whereas the purple is straight out Havoc damage, the red one is stagnating. So whenever Hecate is triggering those, that's what's happening. So as it's going down that music sheet, and Hecate is hitting those red notes, so there's purple notes, then it's doing that property to the mob. And you'll notice right there, when I come out and back into there, you're doing a little finisher right there. That is called the curtain call, which we'll go over also as well. But Hecate's actions are tied to the musical notes that you have created. As Hecate acts, you will notice that your musical notes on your Forte disappear. There's a 4-second interval in between this. Now if we switch out, you'll see that this also shows, look at the icon on the top right, you'll see that it shows Hecate consuming these notes. So this will let you know, remember, it's every 4 seconds, so you'll see Hecate consuming these notes. So once Hecate is done consuming these notes, Hecate's no longer going to be doing those enhanced attacks. So you can more or less close out if you want to, well, as you should, because Hecate's no longer going to be doing anything. So if I change back, you're going to use Curtain Call. Curtain Call can happen or can occur in a few different types of ways, so that's one of them right there, by simply letting the Liberation run its course. Then you'll go back into it and you'll use Curtain Call, which is just your closer, your Liberation, which takes you out of Maestro mode. And so as I just mentioned, Curtain Call can be activated in a multitude of ways, and you'll see that over here. We'll go ahead and just kind of show you right here, but Curtain Call can be activated in a multitude of ways. So it can be activated in 5 different ways here. So when Phrolova is the active resonator on the field in the Maestro state, which is pretty much what we just saw. Well, actually, we saw the intro skill. But of course, when you're done with the attacking, if you stay in the composing mode, the Maestro mode, where you're actually controlling Hecate, after you go through all those stacks, it's the same thing that will happen. You can do that there. So you can close out in that manner. So also when Phrolova is not the active resonator and the Maestro state ends, switch to Phrolova without casting intro skill. So it will also do it. And then, of course, when Maestro state, press Resident Separation. I will force it, of course. And then when Phrolova is in the Resolving Core state, hold Resident Separation. So this one right here is what you kind of need to know here. That's a bit different. Because the rest of these are pretty straightforward. It's like, okay, well, it runs out and then you use it and it's going to use Curtain Call. However, I want you to see this one right here because this is actually an option that you can do if you don't want to go into your Liberation. So let's go over here. You see we have all these stacks still. Isn't that just crazy? Remember, those are all crit damage stacks. So we could go into Scarlet Coda here. This triggers Resolving Core, which allows you to be in this mode to use your Liberation, right? Now, of course, we're going to opt to wait, at least so we did so much damage to that. So we're going to wait here, let it respond. So you can see we have Liberation right here. However, if I hold my Liberation button instead of tapping it, it will do Curtain Call. And it will clear all my notes. We don't go into summoning Hecate. Instead, we just clear all of our notes and we use Curtain Call. So that is something that you... Oh, my sweet baby Nunzu. That is something that you probably would not have noticed. But that's something that you should be aware of for Hecate in case you want to switch it up for a reason or for whatnot. You have an option to do so. So once again, just to show it one more time, if we hold Liberation instead, it will clear all of our musical notes. It'll put us back in this state. So we'll use Curtain Call and it will clear our musical notes. So we can start reapplying musical notes. So of course, when you're in Resolving state, Resolving Chord, you can apply musical notes, right? Your sheet's locked in, of course, right? So as an option as well, if you just want to go straight to the Curtain Call, which is what that's called, when you close out that Liberation. Now to run full circle, remember I mentioned about the 24-second cooldown to enter the composed state? Y'all remember me talking about that, right? So let's go over that. Because this is running full circle now that we're on this, so y'all can kind of see here. Okay, so remember the 24-second cooldown in order to enter the composed state, which she is in right now, which will allow you to use Scarlet Coda. Scarlet Coda is the heavy attack. Scarlet Coda is this baby. Okay, so remember I said not to really worry about that you would never run into that issue of ever reaching that cooldown, that 24-second cooldown. The only realistic time that you will ever reach that cooldown is if you are opting to cancel her Liberation and that you're just using Curtain Call like this. That's really the only time that you will ever possibly run into that 24-second cooldown. Of course, I'm not going to run into it now because we were talking during that, but that's the only time that you will ever. Because if you're letting the Liberation run, then by default, of course, Hecate's on the field. That's the consuming time. She's running through her notes. She's attacking the mob. And then you're going to close out her Liberation. Which, of course, 24 seconds will long have passed after that. So that's the only way that you will ever run into that that issue if you ever run into it. Which, like I said, don't even worry about it because you're not going to really run into it. But you won't be able to do that right there, what I just did. Like, I'll see if we could trigger it. We probably won't be able to because this guy's going to have to respawn. But so now if we count 24, I don't know, we're probably at, I don't know what we're at right now. Well, let's say we're at like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we have 6 notes. I'm going to hold heavy attack. You see, I was holding it right there. I can't trigger it. Now I was able to trigger it because that 24 seconds hadn't gone by yet. So that's the only way that you'll run into that. The only way that you will run into that is if and only if you are opting to use Curtain Call. So just bypass the Hecate Liberation mode. So I also wanted to bring this up as well in regards to her Liberation. that when you are using Hecate and you have Hecate, you know, off field or whatever, just just using Hecate in general. Hecate will use a enhanced Hecate attack. So we can go ahead and get to Hecate. Seriously. We get to Hecate right here. And I'm going to switch out, and then watch here. I'm going to use this Echo skill. And you'll see Hecate did a little extra attack there. So whenever you use an Echo skill, you see that Hecate does that extra attack right there. So that's an enhanced attack, and that's also going to give stacks as well. It's also giving those stacks as well that you can see. So we have 14 right there. Remember, we got 10 when we came in here. We got some when we ourselves were running it. But you will see as well that that will give enhanced attack stacks, which will trigger some of those stacks that you need right there for the crit damage boost. However, note that this is very important for Cantarella. This is why Cantarella is so great with Phrolova. It's because Cantarella's kit, a lot of her stuff, it qualifies as casting an Echo skill. So that's why people want you to use her with Cantarella. That's why Cantarella is one of her favorable options. It's because Cantarella could trigger that, and she is not restricted by something that the text says in here, which is that only Echo skills of the same name can trigger it once. Which means that you can do this a max of 2 times. They can trigger it a max of 2 times. Whereas if you have Cantarella, her skills in themselves count as casting Echo skill, which means that you can run that not only 2 times. And then on top of that, you have her Echo skill as well, making that allow you to build stacks up much more efficiently. However, once again, as I stated before, given how Phrolova works and that she can just cheese this by entering and exiting combat, that really takes away from the need of Cantarella in the first place. So, but nonetheless, I figure I will let y'all know there that when you use those Echo skills, Hecate will do those enhanced attacks. So Echo skill, you'll do that enhanced attack. We'll do another Echo skill right here. And Hecate is going to do those enhanced attacks, which will provide a stack on your afterburner. And just so you can see it for, you know, it's always written down, you can see it right here. It's this one on the Liberation. When Resonators in the team cast Echo skill, Hecate casts enhanced attack Hecate to attack the target. This effect can be triggered up to 10 times in total during Phrolova's Maestro state. Echoes of the same name can trigger this effect 1 time, switching back to Phrolova in Maestro state. So this is what we're seeing right here. Echoes of the same name can trigger this effect 1 time, which means that if you're running this outside of a Cantarella team, then they can only trigger in that manner. So it can only trigger twice, right? One character and then the other character can only trigger that many times. However, if you're running in Cantarella, because of how Cantarella's kit works, this can be triggered many more times. Like you can reach 10 because of that, of how her kit works and that her actual like skills and abilities actually register as casting an Echo skill. So that's something that you should note there. But once again, like I said, because of how Phrolova works and that you can just stack her stuff by exiting or entering battle, it negates the need to have Cantarella. Of course, you're really benefiting from it more so in Tower of Adversity and Whimpering Waste. Now you may also notice that upon casting Phrolova's Liberation, she will make one of 2 different faces. If y'all were paying attention to that, you will see. So we'll make one of 2 different faces, and if you're wondering how to trigger these different faces, it's in regards to her notes. If you're wondering how to trigger these different faces, so for instance, you'll see right now. Let's get some HP. So for instance, you'll see right now, I have a bunch of red notes. So let's go ahead and use the Scarlet Coda. This guy's probably gonna die. Okay, so I have a priority of red notes right here, right now, right? And remember, red notes, just to remind y'all, red notes are the ones that stagnate and do havoc damage. Purple is the one that does straight out havoc damage. But I have all red right now, and then of course you can have all purple, or well, majority red, majority purple. Now, depending on which one you do, she'll do an excited face, like an excited, bloodlustful face, or she'll do a kind of like dejected face. So, with red, she will do the sad face. So we'll see this here. You see she hit the sad face. And if you have more purple instead, let's go ahead and just pop out of that. So let's get more purple. Remember, purple is the E skill. If you have more purple, should do the excited face. So let's get more purples here. Let's get more purples here. So now we have a majority of purples. So let's go ahead and use this. And then let's go into it, and you'll see her face will be different this time. She's happy, 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 excited, lustful face, right? So that's how that one's going to work if you were wondering about how you trigger those, and if you're wondering why you're seeing a different face each time. You're like, wait, why am I seeing a different face each time? That's what's going on, that's why you're seeing that. By the way, when you're in Hecate, I didn't mention this earlier, but if you want to reset your position, press jump. That will reset your position as such. Just a heads up there. That will reset your position. Let's leave this spot because this thing's going to be making this little noise right here. I know you can hear it. Y'all like, bro, this thing's so annoying. Like, bro, shut up. And so that brings us to our gearing, y'all. That brings us to our hefty, defty gearing. Huh? Yeah, she's gearing it up. She's gearing it up. Anyways, let's go inside here. So the first thing you should know here is that her echo skills, her echo sets here, is your standard ones. So you're going to want your 4, 3, 3, 1, 1. With your 4 being a crit rate or a crit damage piece, you kind of want to aim towards getting your crit rate towards 100%. So this should be a crit rate piece unless you just have some ungodly stats on your, I guess depending on what weapon you're using, I guess. Yeah, I guess depends on what weapon you're using. But of course you want to get your crit rate to as close as possible to 100%. And then of course you want to focus on all that crit damage. She's built in the same way as any DPS is built. So attack, crit rate, crit damage, that's what she likes. And then of course resonant skill as well. So you want resonant skill as well. Of course, energy regen does nothing for her. She does not have energy regen. We're about to go over that in a second. Like, real quick in a second. Like, on this page in a second. But she will use 433, 1-1, and of course it will be double Havoc and double attack down here. And like I said, she's very straightforward, you know, your DPS type, so she wants attack, your crits, and your resonant skill damage bonus. That's what she really wants. Now, the set that you should use here, if you didn't notice this, we have different sets. It's because this new set, Dream of the Lost, this is a 3-3 piece, which leaves room for a 2 piece. So this Dream of the Lost here, holding 0 resonance energy, increases crit rate by 20% and grants 35% echo skill damage bonus. So yeah, crit rate right there. It's 20%. It's a lot of crit rate, right? So you have a lot of crit rate already off the jump. Because you're getting this crit rate, trying to stack this crit rate. You got this crit rate piece right here. You're trying to get 100%. Now, if you're wondering about this 0 resonance energy, if this is confusing to you, pretty much in short, the main thing you need to know here is that Phrolova does not build energy. There's no scenario where she builds energy. She will always have 0 resonance energy. Her kit literally does not compile of energy. None. In any way, shape, or form. Okay? You will never see it. This includes when you have your liberation, all that jazz. Ran this, I tested it. There's no point where she has resonance energy. So this is always staying up for Phrolova, okay? Now, of course, on this force piece slot, you want this one here, the Nightmare Hecate, obviously. This deals Havoc damage and Echo Skill damage bonus, which is quite perfect for Phrolova, of course. So this is, of course, who you want to use for your force slot. But that's how this 3 piece is going to work for Gem of the Lost. So this can be, you know, just doesn't matter which ones, just 3 of them. And then for the 2 here, this can be either Midnight Veil, or it can be the other Havoc one, the Havoc Eclipse, because they both give Havoc damage plus 10%. So it can be either or, whichever one you happen to have more of, that have, you know, whichever cost that you're working on, you know, just kind of just go that route, whichever one you have more of. So either Midnight Veil or Havoc Eclipse, they're both giving you the same thing of 10% Havoc damage. So it doesn't matter which one you use. Just put that as your 2. So you want to pair these, Dream of the Lost, and either the Midnight Veil or the Havoc Eclipse are your options for that. And of course, as you can see here, the crit rate fairly high on that one. Like I said, you want to get this as close as possible at, to 100 as you can. Which then brings us to her outro skill, which I want to cover next as well. Is that her outro skill is going to work in that it gives Havoc damage amplification and 25% heavy attack damage amplification. Of course, I want to go into this because right after this, we're about to go into teams. So I want to go over this. But this gives, her outro skill gives Havoc damage amplification and 25% heavy attack damage for 14 seconds. So this is what you should note here. And then, of course, also, if Phrolova is in Maestro state when she casts a skill, Hecate additionally casts Enhanced Attack Hecate 2 times, which means it's going to give you stacks, right? That's going to give you stacks. Your crit damage stacks. 2 times when Phrolova is switched off the field while in the same Maestro state duration. So that's what you should understand about that there. That's the most important thing, though. It's just that heavy damage and heavy attack damage are the 2 things that are getting boosted here by 20 and 25% respectively. And then there's the intro skill over here. Remember these 2 right here? I talked about that before with the intro skill and the echo skill, which would trigger this right here. Remember that's for the Cadenza. It's for the combined note, right? So I mentioned that right there. That's what these names were. So these are just two different intro skill variations. One's just your regular, and then one's when you're in Maestro state. So that's pretty much all you need to know here. Remember, this one here is considered resonant skill damage. Remember, if there's another stat that you want outside like the attacks and the crits and stuff, is resonant skill damage. Which brings us to our teams, y'all. All right, so Phrolova can really be played with a lot of different teams because she's a very flexible unit, is one thing that you should really understand here. And of course, you want to use her with Cantarella and Roccia if you have her. Now, I don't have Cantarella or Roccia. I opted not to pull them. But Cantarella and Roccia are really kind of her premium best team. Simply because, of course, they're Havoc. They can take advantage of the Havoc damage increase. And mainly Cantarella for the fact that she can really trigger those echo skill boosts on her stacks. But like I said before, the fact that she can obtain those stacks outside combat, you know, just enter and exit combat, makes Cantarella not as important as otherwise it would need to be. However, of course, if no one bring waste or TOA, that's obviously not going to work in that regard with Phrolova being able to build those stacks by entering and exiting combat. However, if you have Cantarella and Roccia, this is the premium team that you want to use for Phrolova, because you're going to benefit pretty much the most out of that, and it's kind of the team that's kind of designed around it. However, you don't need to have that team. You can still pull Phrolova and not have that team because Phrolova has high synergy with freaking everyone because of how her kit works, quite frankly. It's a very high synergy with pretty much everyone. So of course we have this team that we're already in right here, which does take advantage of some of that Havoc damage boost. Also, Danjin can, you know, take some of that heavy attack damage increase from the outro skill as well. She can take some of that, as she does use heavy attack in her kit, but it's not like a whole lot. But nonetheless, you can run this team, and you can see, because now we're going through actual motions right now. We've explained everything to you, so the rest of this stuff is going to be actual, just like pure combat. So we can go through these whole motions here. As you see, she's just strong in general, and which allows her to be played with a lot of different teams, and of course having her all-field property of Hecate. But we can go into this here, and we can just go into Danjin. So that way now we have the outro skill, and Danjin will benefit from, you know, the Havoc damage increase. Go ahead and apply that stack on you. If I can't see it, there we go. Get that Havoc damage increase, and of course you can also apply to the heavy attack. My Danjin's actually not geared, even though that doesn't appear that way, right? Because it's blowing through it. But all of her skills are like level 6. I mean, she's geared, she's equipped, her echoes are max, but her skills are all level 6. So this can work in that regard too. If you kind of have a free, if you're looking for a free option, you don't have Cantarella, you don't have Roccia, you kind of want to put a Havoc user in there. Also, of course, like Havoc Rover, if you want to use that as well, if you're looking for a free option, that will work as well. Of course, Verena, Shorekeeper, those are kind of your premium, or your, not even premium, but your wanted slots for your healer. That goes to pretty much any team is going to be Verena or Shorekeeper, by the way. or Baiji works as well, especially if you have, you know, I happen to have Shorekeeper as a weapon, but I don't have Shorekeeper. But Baiji can use her weapon, so it works out well in that regard. But this is a team that you can use if you want to, you know, you don't have Cantarella Roccia, you're more so free to play-ish. You're kind of looking to really amplify that Havoc damage. Of course, mind you, Danjin is a kind of a weird character to play for a lot of people because she does consume her own HP. So that may not be something that you want to do. However, it is an option for more advanced players if you don't have those Havoc options otherwise, and you want to kind of just play around with Danjin in that light, while taking advantage of Phrolova in her off-field Hecate mode. And off-field and on-field can operate as a sub DPS or main DPS for both of them, Danjin or Phrolova. I did also want to note as well on Danjin that if you have her S6, which you very well may because she's a 4-star, that she does give attack plus 20% to everyone on the team. So if you can play Danjin, then she is a very optimal character to play with her as well, because she does give those boosts across the board to the team on top of that. And she's a very strong character. She just, you know, she takes her own HP. So of course you have to be, you know, very good at dodging and stuff in order to play her efficiently. But she's a very great character in that regard. Now, another team that you could possibly use here, so we're kind of going over the high recommendation ones. Another team you could possibly use here is switching out. So Verena would be, you know, obviously Verena is Shorekeeper. That's always going to be the case. Or you could switch out Danjin and opt to go for Zhezhi. This is an option too, and one of the reasons for that is because this resonant skill damage amplified. If you recall, Phrolova's kit has a lot of resonant skill damage, so like all of your like things like this counts as resonant skill damage. So as a result, Zhezhi can be good in that regard. Of course, Zhezhi is a great off-fielder as well anyway, and can be played as an on-fielder too. So it's another one of those situations where it's interchangeable. You can either play, you know, Phrolova as a complete on-fielder, or you can play her as, you know, kind of backfield. You can let Zhezhi go to work. Of course, this requires your Zhezhi to be built a bit differently, or well, more so just Glacier focus, which mine is, because I kind of have her stats built in that regard. However, we're kind of in a pickle right now because she's supposed to be using Cosmic Ripples, and I have Phrolova using that right now, which I don't know that yet because we haven't gone over weapons, which we will go over weapons. But nonetheless, I have her running this set right here for the Glacial damage set, whereas other builds will have you running her for this one if you strictly have her in a support type role. So that's kind of your options there for that one if you're wanting to run Zhezhi in this team. However, like I said, you know, you can really use both of these as a main or a sub DPS, which allows that flexibility, and that can be the case for a lot of Phrolova's kit. Now we go into our next, and this will be also pretty much like a Jianxin. You can use Jianxin if you have Jianxin. That's an option as well. She does like differing attributes, so that's an option. I'm not really going to show this one because it's really more or less the same with this stuff, where it's like Phrolova can be paired with pretty much any other type of kind of fast-moving pace character that, you know, kind of applies and can take advantage of some of her buffs and take advantage of some of her playstyle. So Jianxin can take advantage of that as well. But one I would like y'all to note is Jianxin, because when y'all have her, she's a standard 5-star character that most of y'all likely have. She can take advantage of this as well because, of course, what did we know before? That Phrolova has heavy attack damage boosts. So as a result, you can also take advantage of this as well by playing her in such a team. If you don't have the proper, you know, the teams that you want or whatever, you can play her as such, and you'll have no issue with that. Let's have to get back to that. My bad. I mean, I guess we don't need that. We just need her outdoor skill. We don't need to run the liberation. Just whichever one comes first, this thing dies too quickly. But we can show here that you can have a heavy attack, and then also Jianxin can also contribute to Phrolova. And I'll explain why here in a second. So we're going to here. Let's hope this thing doesn't die. And it died. As you can see, Phrolova is very strong. As you can see, Phrolova is very strong. So we're actually going to go ahead and go into our liberation right here. And then we're just going to preemptively go into it. Go into this liberation right here. Let this guy respawn. There's my outro. So we'll go ahead and go into that. That's going to give me that heavy attack. So we can go ahead and just go into that heavy attack boost. You see that's working its magic. Working its magic right there. But then also, you can also benefit Phrolova here because of Jianxin's outro skill, which is going to amplify liberation. So that comes down, and that's actually boosting that to a slight degree because it's liberation damage. That curtain call right there, that's actually boosting that as well. So that is an option as well that you have, you know, just going through options for you. For both, you know, free to play, for whales, for dolphins, for sardines, whatever the hell you are. Going over options for you all. And then we have this one here, which actually is very high synergy, which is Lupa. Because of these quick play styles, this can work very well. This guy's going to die way too quick though, so let's not even go here. In fact, you know what, we'll go over here. We'll just kind of showcase this here. Over at this Nightmare Graveyard. This is also where you're going to go to farm this new set of echo skills that you're using for Phrolova. So we can go over here, and this will show a good little showcase of Lupa and Phrolova playing together as well. They pair very well together because of their playstyle. And also keep in mind, Lupa has the attack boost that she gives everyone, which is massive. Can't remember where it's at. It's on Liberation. Can't remember where it says. It's the Pack Hunt. So you have this attack boost that you get as well. Remember that you don't need to run her infusion in Lupa to gain the attack boost. You just need to run her infusion to get the fusion boost across the board. But she gives the attack boost from the intro skills. So you're getting the attack increase on top of that, which makes Lupa very good to run with pretty much like with all our different teams. We have a Lupa guide, which is very detailed as well, as all my guides are. So be sure to check that Lupa guide out as well, as I'm not going to go over this because I have a whole guide for that. So if you really want to understand how that works and how Lupa works and how she can be used in different teams, fusion or non-fusion, then there's a guide for that. I do have a guide for that, so you can check that out on the channel. But nonetheless, this will work very well as well in this team with Lupa, because there's such a high rotational value here going on. So both of these can be an absolute beast working together, as you'll get a lot of synergy here going in between these two, and you're also benefiting from the attack increases from the outro skills, from the intro skills, outro skills, as you can see there. And because of the quick cooldown liberation, it allows you to just really go right back into it very quickly. Like I'm already ready here. Allows you to go right back into it, and Phrolova's ready to go too. So you can go right back to this right here. So now we opt to use hers first, which means that we're gonna pop in here. We're gonna have some attack boost here from doing intro skills. Gonna do some intro skills again. So now we're at the max stacks on attack right there from Lupa's kit, and we're going into here with Phrolova with an additional attack boost to boot that she already has on top of her, which allows us to furthermore produce damage and furthermore go hammy hams. But as you can see, the rotational value here is pretty nutty as we go in and out of these things and really get to moving. So as you can see there, this works very well as well. Pretty much she has high synergy with a lot of different options, and a lot of different options can be played for you. Phrolova is a very high synergy character, and like I said, you don't need to have Cantarella or Roccia in order to utilize Phrolova's kit. She is just that good. You do not need to have these characters in order to properly utilize her kit. So do not think that you do, because these teams will work. So you have a multitude of options that I just showed you right there that you have. And then, you know, if you really just want to go after the Havoc options and you're free to play, you have those options as well. You can use Havoc Rover just to really amplify those Havoc damage boosts. Or you can use Danjin. You can use, you know, whoever you want in regards to that. And of course, there will be other options that present themselves in the future that we'll also be able to utilize that with as well. And then last but not least, we have the weapons. Of course, and we'll make this one quick, Of course, you have her signature weapon, which is, of course, going to be her best weapon. It's her signature weapon, y'all. I did not get her signature weapon, however, but we'll show it to y'all. This one is going to be a beast of a weapon. Okay, so it's going to give attack. It's going to get some echo skill damage. It's going to also negate some damage right here, some defense. So lots of amplification, and it's a crit rate weapon. So this is a very nice weapon to have. And this will allow you as well to kind of have your 4 slot as a crit damage piece, right? Because you have a crit rate weapon. This will allow you to have a crit damage echo slot. So this is nice. As per usual, it's their signature weapon. It's always going to be the best option for them because it's their signature. It's designed for them, right? However, Phrolova is not one of those characters where you have to have her weapon. She's not. She has many different other options because of how her kit is, because she's a typical DPS type. She likes those stats like attack, crit rate, crit damage, which most of these weapons have those types of properties. So you can opt to use things such as the Cosmic Ripples, which is the standard 5-star. I have the camo on. You can opt to use things like the Cosmic Ripples, as you can see here, because it does apply the attack. It gives that hefty attack on there. And, you know, you can gain a little bit from that basic attack damage. However, there's not really much going on there. But you can also gain some from that. But because she is a typical DPS type, this attack does benefit her greatly so. You don't need to have her signature. Now, of course, she can also use other 5-star signatures, such as, you know, that's usually how it's going to work. They're going to be interchangeable for the most part. You know, there's a lot of 5-stars that have like crit and crit damage or whatever. So you can also use other 5-stars such as that, just like String Master or Whispers of Sirens if you have them. Those are going to be options as well. That's usually going to be the case when it comes to 5-stars, is that some of these other signature weapons will be interchangeable in that regard. Now, if you're free to play and you're looking for a 4-star option, free to play, not battle pass or whatever, you're free to play, pretty much your option here is going to be the Fusion Accretion. This one. So casting the Resonance skill grants 7 Resonance Energy and increases attack by 12.5. You're ignoring the Resonance Energy. Remember, she hasn't used Resonance Energy. So you're looking at this attack. And then, of course, the attack stats up here, the base attack, and the attack percentage. That's really your only option for free-to-play, is the Fusion Accretion. Now, of course, you might be looking at, you know, like some of these other ones here that give attack like this, the Keeper. However, this one is too reliant on intro skill. So I would not recommend doing this one, and also the values there are not as hefty over there. So I would really just, you know, if you have to choose one for a 4-star free-to-play, go for the Fusion Accretion. That's really your bet. But of course, if you absolutely have to, then these are options. And just understand that she wants, you know, attack, crit damage. You know, she's a DPS type. So if you have to go far down here, you know, you're just starting out, you know, you're struggling, then of course, you know, just understand she wants attack. Okay. So that's really what I want to let you know there. She's an extremely versatile unit, as you can tell, and she is a unit that can be played both on field and off field as a main DPS or sub DPS, but she of course highlights as a main DPS, of course. But she can be ran in multitudes and multitudes of different teams. That's the big thing you really need to understand about her, is that she can be ran in multitudes of different teams. So do not feel like you have to be locked into, oh, I can only get her if I have Cantarella and Roccia. Oh, it's the only way I can play her. I really want her to know. If you want her, pull her. Because she is valuable regardless of what you have. And she will continue to be valuable in the future because she can be played in high synergy with so many different teams because of how she plays, how she operates, and how she's able to just dish out damage on field and off field. So with that being said, we're going to wrap this one up here. So I see some auto animations for her as she's going to sit here. That's one really nice thing about her too, is these animations, these auto animations that you see here. Very, very hefty. Definitely want to showcase these as she plays there with the strings, dude. I haven't seen one play that. I can't remember what's that even called. I don't remember what that's called. But this is a very hefty idle animation. As you see, there's the flowers around her, and she'll be let down. And then, of course, there's one more that I want y'all to see, which is the note playing one, where she'll play right here, and she can play some notes going on here. As she is the maestro, she is the conductor. And she is conducting the music, y'all. She's conducting the music. Absolutely lovely. Those are the ones I really want you to see. But nonetheless, y'all, that is Phrolova for you. So be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know how your pulls are going with her. All the above. And be sure to like and subscribe, y'all. Be sure to check out for the next guides that are coming up. We're always dropping guides, and they're always going to be of the utmost highest quality and premium, easy to understand ways that you will ever see. Always, every single time. So be sure to like, subscribe, y'all. Hit those buttons. I appreciate it a lot. And I will see y'all in the next one. Much love. Holla. Phrolova says goodbye. Dude, saying that, Phrolova says goodbye after seeing the story really hits different. Anyways, y'all later. Spike content.